the second one, and we'll come back to the first one. And the first one is the Mississippi Justice Reinvestment Act. And we do have a committee sub on that. And I will go through the whole bill, read it, and I will give you some highlights as to what the bill does, what we're asking for in this. Basically, since 2015, Mississippi, the state of Mississippi has passed several criminal justice reform laws which have reduced the MDOC population from 22,000 plus to almost 15,000 today. And per a peer report in 2019, we had a net savings to the state of Mississippi in the excess of over $100 million. And there are 8 states that have passed similar pieces of legislation like this, which what it does is provide dedicated annually resources from the amount of money that's been saved as a result of that. And some is for crime prevention, some of it is used for housing and other things. But what we would like to do with the third, we were asking for a third. Please don't get along by that number. Because I've already spoken with the Lieutenant Governor. That third that we asking for, we know that that probably is not going to happen. To keep the bill open, the Lieutenant Governor agreed that we will discuss those numbers as the bill and go through the process and as they go through appropriations here. But what we're asking for is that regardless of the amount of money that we can all agree on, that we would like for 40% of this money to go into reentry services. And part of that 40% will go into housing vouchers, training and education, and employment navigators for those people who are released from prison. We're trying to do everything we can to stop the flow of people coming back to the Department of Corrections. Then we would have 20% of this money, whatever amount that is, will go to a crimes victims compensation fund. Another 20% will go to law enforcement crime prevention fund. And another 20% will go into reentry courts that we have seen been effective around the state. And the reason why I say the reentry courts like that is because not only do we have reentry courts out there, but this will also give them additional dollars to do more in their reentry courts. And there will be members of the committee, if we so choose to do this, then it will be a committee that will be formed, and the members of the committee would be, one member would be appointed at large by the governor. We would have a member appointed by the lieutenant governor, a member of the private sector from the state who already employs formerly incarcerated individuals shall be appointed by the lieutenant governor. The same person will also be appointed by the Speaker of the House. We will have a member of the private sector from the state at large who employs formerly incarcerated persons from both the Senate and the House. Chairman of Corrections. The commissioner of the Department of Correction also gets to appoint someone. And the chairman of the parole board gets to appoint someone to this as well. Law enforcement and the criminal justice community also will have a representative. So it will be representative of what we think is a good cross-section of people who make good decisions as to how these monies will disperse. And all of this will be done by a grant process. And we're asking that be handled by the Department of Revenue and the Department of Finance. And then we get everything done. That's basically the gist of the bill, that we would like to take some of the savings that has occurred in our efforts to reduce our incarceration rates reinvestment into some real reentry things that we think that are important, and these are all recommendations here. The 2019 peer report as well. Like I said, there's 8 other states that are already doing the same thing. One of them is our neighbor over in Louisiana, and it has been a success over there. And so I'm just asking that since we do have some momentum as far as our corrections, that we continue to do that and continue to try to keep those who we have granted parole or let out of our prison system to keep them in that path and not see them return back to that same institution. So I'm open to any questions if there may be any from you. Senator.
Thank you, Senator Barnett, Mr. Chairman, for your hard work on this. So does this involve any increased appropriations for this program, or is it all funds appropriated to the Department of Corrections?
Well, there's not any funds that are appropriated to the Department of Corrections. What we are asking for is that from the net savings from the state that the state has saved, is that we would take some of that. And like I said, the third that you see on here is not, a third of $100 million, which we know is roughly about $33 million. So we're not asking for that. I didn't have enough time to get a substitute together, but I can assure you, it's just like I told the governor, that number is not the final number. I'm sure that number will be considerably less than that, but we're just asking that the money that we have saved, that to keep those costs like that, and we reinvest some of our savings into a program that will potentially keep those people from returning to the Department of Corrections.
On line 126, it says basically 40% is going to be used for 1, 2, and 3 things. What are the nonprofit organizations that you're referring to in that section?
What would be the nonprofit organizations?
What's an example of these nonprofits?
There's an organization, I know they are trying to establish a presence here in Mississippi. There's a nonprofit organization, I think it's in
So that's an out-of-state company?
There's one in another state. I know we have some, but I'm trying to think of the one that's been real effective in doing this. And they came up and testified, but I can't remember what it is, but I would definitely have you that information.
And then in line 29, paragraph B, 20% goes to the Mississippi Reinvestment Fund for the purposes of funding innovative crime prevention measures. What is an example of an innovative crime prevention measure? Is that in local cities like Jackson? Or?
That would be local cities like Jackson. It could be something that your police department over in Leesville can take advantage of. It could even be, with sheriff departments, anybody in the law enforcement community. We encourage them to help as much as possible and giving them resources to be able to do that.
But why is the state now appropriating money to cities and counties for law enforcement? Don't they have their own funding sources? Why are we now assisting locals with this, I guess?
I guess the reason why we would start with the locals is that because we understand, most of the crimes are local. So we're asking that, we give these police departments and these sheriff departments extra to help prevent this, then we would see then the net savings will come from that.
And then paragraph D, 20% to the AOC. Why is that the case? I know they have their own budget, they have their own funding. Why are we the Administrative Office of Courts for intervention courts? I know it was in a subcommittee hearing, and they were asking for their appropriation, increased appropriation. Why are we sending money to the AOC again?
Well, it's not just to the AOC, but it's to all of the regions, whether it be county courts or even Supreme Courts. We're just trying reinvest in some point reinvest in some of our savings back into keeping those formerly incarcerated people out of or off the backs of the taxpayers in Mississippi.
Senator Barnett, I think you put a lot of work into it. You've done yeoman's work the last 3 years. However, I just think at some point we need to make sure our correctional officers and employees of DOC are taken care of. I still hear stories that where I'm at where they're understaffed, they're having to work double and triple shifts. They don't feel safe in SMCI, and yet but through your work, we've reduced our incarceration numbers from 20 to 15,000. I just think at some point it's time to say that we're going to take care of our employees more so than the convicts. And so I just think at some point, I think I'm about to that point. And when I hear of horror stories where employees come to me and talk about how they don't feel safe, they can't leave, they're afraid to do their job. I just think at some point we need to focus on them rather than the people that did what they did to be there.
You more, Senator Barr. You and I have had this conversation as far as the care of the employees at these facilities. But I do think that yes, we do need to try and find ways to help those employees. But I do think that if we can keep the number of people down in our Department of Correction, it gives them an opportunity to manage less people that are being incarcerated. And I don't mind even going forward with this if we can possibly, as this moves through the process, I promise you that I will even be open to taking some of that savings and putting it in this bill and letting it go towards employee pay raises. I have no problem with that. I would like to see everybody being taken care of. And so I don't have a problem with that.
Again, thank you for your leadership on this. I mean, going from 20 to 15,000 is tremendous. And, but I do appreciate you listening to me, and I'd like to get with you as we go forward on this. Thank you.
Senator Simmons.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. As far as the committee that you have here, I see that we have the commissioner of MDOC, the chairman of the state parole board or their designees, law enforcement is also here in lines 105 and 106. So there's like 3 people from the prosecution side, for lack of a better term. So my amendment, if you would accept it as a friendly amendment, is if we can have one of the members on this committee to be the state public defender and or his designee. That'll be my amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a real interest in what we're talking about, having served on the parole board, and I realize that recidivism is a tremendous problem because it's very frustrating when we give people a chance, then 2 weeks later we're going to retake hearing for them. If I were grading this, if it were a grant proposal, which it basically is, I would suggest more specifics to get the grant money. I would suggest that you perhaps get Louisiana's template, because I know they have done good work in the past, and get specific numbers and names of organizations that have given, through their nonprofit efforts, have given success stories to inmates who have been released, either by flat timing, as they say, or going out on parole or probation. I think that would help sell this. I mean, it's a noble effort, and I certainly applaud you. You and I have talked about the importance of bills like this, and the fact that we have nearly 7,000 fewer inmates than we had a few years ago is commendable. The families need their loved ones back hopefully helping to sustain their children and not being locked up, having housing, clothing, security, everything paid for, I just hope you can come up with some more specific numbers for this bill before it gets before the Senate. I think it'll help with the salesmanship of it, and that's just my suggestion.
Suggestion as well, taking Senator Chestnut and explain to Senator Barber, you have my word, it's like I've spoken with Lieutenant Governor on this. And Senator Chestnut, you said something the other night, about that.
Please explain that. That sounds like you and I were out having a big time.
Well, we were, but we was in the company of other people as well. But so the comment or the remark, or the comment was that, our Department of Corrections is the most expensive boarding school in the state of Mississippi.
Probably the country.
And we're trying to fix that. I think through efforts like some of the bills that we passed, doing something like this will help us to continue to reduce those numbers so that we can spend monies in areas like Senator DeBar is talking about, back and reinvesting into employees and other things as well. Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd just like to say that I think you're kind of on the right track for where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. I agree with Senator Chestnut about the employee piece. I think that's an important part, and we need to try to make sure we can invest some of that money back into employees. I think that would be a big deal. That'd be a better sale, if you will. Trying to get it to the board, to kind of give them a little bit more support. That way they will, of course, feel better about what they're doing and make it better for everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Senator Norwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all,
The hard number right now is what you see before you in for savings. That's the hard number. That number may be a little bit more today because when this, when we got this information, it's been a couple months ago. But we can still say that we're over $100 million in savings to the state of Mississippi.
I understand it, and I'm here for it, but how can we get saving from saving? Everything from saving to the thing. Also, be an expense of
No, so the money that we're talking about in this is for savings is based upon the number of individuals that has been reached as a reduction in the prison system. It has nothing to do with employees.
I have an argument that I think they of their being even of the lease was dead and the individual lease was dead. But I really consider the bar. This is just this week. I'm dedicated to an employee. It's all about set work out and then operational staff. I mean, those are dangerous, that's very troubling. As far as the safety and their health, so I mean, I just support those that I think that's but also there's these programs that help routes is at least invest in those programs. I think that is a big everything once they get out, yes. You should go with definitely hopefully benefit the program
And Senator Norwood, I can't agree with you more. I had that same conversation with Commissioner Kane in regard to finding individuals employed. And as I explained to Commissioner Kane, is that, we can't say that MDOC is to blame for this, because when you can pass by a Chevron gas station, you see a help wanted sign, and they're offering $15 an hour with the bonus, and they can't find help. It makes it extremely hard to find help, even when they found the money to up the wages to pay people. Nobody's willing to do it. Not only is MDOC having a problem with finding employees, but we're suffering that all over the place. And we haven't forgotten about them, boys. I have. That's the conversation that we have, you know, and the MDOC is all over the place, trying to find people to go to work with significant pay raises from what they've had before. So it hasn't gone unnoticed. The problem is trying to find people, and like I said, the money is the pay, starting pay is really increased, but it's just hard to find people.
Well, I mean, there again, talk about these hard work. They're holiday days.
Well, I haven't heard those reports, Senator. I'm not saying that what you're saying is not true, but I just haven't heard those reports. But I can promise you something that I will, you know, look into is chief correction. Because like I said, I just don't want this to appear as though we are going out for a person that's being incarcerated. We want to make sure that the whole Department of Corrections, and I've said this many times, is that I would like to see one day where we're not even calling our Department of Corrections the Department of Corrections, but some type of Department of Rehabilitation or something like that, because I would like to see people totally rehabilitated when they leave. You know, I'm sorry. Sir? All of those things will be in the, yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I know we've been on this for a minute, and I just want to say, I think what we all agree on is that you've done an outstanding job over the last 3 years, like Senator Barr said, and I echo some of the concerns expressed by Senator Butler, Senator Norwood. But I guess I'll conclude by saying what's standing out to me is what Senator Chazanov said, which is ways to make sure we can sell this. And so my amendment would be to put a reverse repeal in it, because I think if you got this many questions regarding this in just this committee, I would hate for a bill like this to hit the floor and people don't understand that you will continue your hard work through the process. And I think all of our concerns will be addressed by you as our leader in corrections as this bill goes through the process. But I hate to have a lot of these same concerns on the floor and we don't be successful in trying to establish what you got here. So my amendment would be, if it's a friendly amendment, Mr. Chairman, to put a reverse repeal in the bill.
There's an amendment to add a reverse repeal.
Aye. Titus issue do pass as amended, Mr. Chairman. Titus issue do pass committee sub.
Thank you all for that. And thank you all for the engagement. I promise you that we will continue to work on this and address all the concerns that you all have. All right, Senator.
We're going to carry the vote on that last one, though, don't we?
Sir.
We made the motion, we do need to vote on it.
Oh, we did. We did.
On the amendment, but not on.
Not on the bill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So do we have a motion?
Title issue do pass committee sub. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Senator Sparks, if you would you explain the next item that we have, which is Senate Bill 25?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 2580 is a bill that should look familiar to you. We've had this bill last year, I know, if not possibly the year before. This bill deals with two or three issues. The first is that there is a $20 rate that the MDOC reimburses county jails when state inmates are in the county jail. And if you notice in section 1, in several places, it is referenced where in subsection 2 and subsection 3, where there's a lack of space. Well, we know several years ago, there was a lack of space. We had a lot of people being shifted to county jails. That is not so much the issue today, but that number is still capped at $20. So while we don't anticipate that it's a space issue going forward, we would like to raise that number to $25 a day as a cap. Now, they can still enter into a contract or actual cost, but we don't anticipate there's a lot of need for that on a space not available. The second way that someone is in a county jail is by request. A county sheriff or president board of supervisors can request that someone that is a qualifying crime serve their time in the county jail. And as I've understood, the county bears the burden of the cost if they request someone to stay in their county. There was also something that we added, that the county of conviction or the county of request. So if a board of supervisors president or sheriff where someone was convicted, or they simply requested, it may be their county of residence, wanted to take that burden on, then that's a relief from MDOC. But that was the second thing we did, was we made county of request available. The biggest thing that this bill does, and I think that if you look at section 3, it's been the policy of the legislature for a long time that inmates be removed from county jails as early as practical. Why? Because we normally classify in MDOC. They get their case plan in MDOC. They begin their A&D in MDOC. Everything that we're doing in a rehabilitative nature occurs in MDOC, not in the county jail. We're having a problem with inmates, and outside of COVID. This is not a COVID issue. We're having a problem that inmates are being left in our county jails for upwards of 90, 100, 120 days after they're sentenced. So when someone is convicted and they are sentenced, the clerk sends the order of conviction to MDOC. What we are saying now is you have 5 days from the date that order is sent or the date that MDOC receives that order, whichever is earlier, to come get your inmate. And for the next 30 days, you're going to pay $25 to that county jail to house them. If you have left your inmate, MDOC custody inmate, for 30 days at $25 on day 31, you're going to start reimbursing the counties at $30 a day. If you leave them another 30 days, you're going to start reimbursing the counties at $35 a day. This is a motivational tool for MDOC to go get your inmates, because that's better for everybody. County jails are not equipped for this. And in some of our counties, most of our counties, those county jails house municipal inmates. And the municipalities are paying more than $20. So DeSoto County, for instance, if they have a full house and 90 to 100 of those inmates are MDOC inmates, DeSoto County is getting $20 a day, where the city of South Haven or the city of Olive Branch will pay them $35 a day. So that's primarily what this bill does. This bill is double referred to appropriations, and I've spoken with the appropriations chair. We're paying this out of already existing funds. We're just saying, come get your people. And if you come get them earlier, there'll be no penalty. But that's an explanation of the bill, Mr. Chairman, and I would yield any questions.
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said the county can request to keep that inmate.
Yes, sir.
Why would they do that?
And the unique, right, well, that's already existing law. Like, in other words, that's not something we're doing that's new. But if a county sheriff or president board of supervisors wanted to say, will house Daniel Sparks. You know, and it's certain crimes only that it can't be a close custody inmate that you can do that with. That's been the law for a while, that the sheriff or the board of supervisors could say, we're gonna house me during my custody. That would just be their choice, and they're absorbing that cost. They would be responsible to the people that vote for them, that they chose to absorb the cost of housing me.
But I guess they would have fucked up that they attorney would pay for X. And they, you know, the county workers.
I think that's reasonable, but I think it would be probably if the DA was willing to sign off on it and the attorneys requesting it and the judge, and ultimately the MPOC commissioner doesn't have to grant it. He or she can say, no, they just have to give you a written reason. That's actually a relief on the state tax dollars. If the county wants to say, hey.
No, I have no problem with it. I just never heard that before.
It's been out there for a while. I don't know how often it's utilized there.
Senator Norwood.
That is correct. I think that's a good question. I think there's two pieces to that answer. First of all, it would take the burden that the state has pushed upon our counties and shift it back to the state where it belongs, because these are state inmates. So while there may not be a punitive factor other than this escalating rate, it would give relief to our counties who are not doing anything wrong. The second thing I would submit to you when corrections comes to the committee of appropriations and subcommittee of appropriations, and they have to explain why they want more money to pay for housing in the county jails, and we pull the data and we see that they have inmates that are averaging over 90 days in the county jail. I think that's probably where the rubber meets the road. That's correct. And I would submit to you, it could be potentially a cost savings, because if we leave someone in a county jail for 100 days and $20 a day, we have a reimbursement. Ultimately, we reimburse those counties, so there'll be a track record of checks that would be written to these counties for reimbursement. But, you know, if we spend $2,000 on housing someone because we just wouldn't go get them versus getting them into the state system, where I understand what Peter says when there's a daily rate, but I don't believe there's an incremental increase when we add one more inmate to, you know, CMCF's facility. But that would be how we would judge that. But the main thing is it gives relief to our counties who have no control over an inmate, that when that judge sentences them, he sentences them into the custody of MPOC. Yes, sir. Absent a contract, we do allow, because when that 20 to 25, that is a cap. That's a cap, but they can enter into a contract. So if a county jail would enter into a contract with the state of Mississippi and say, we'll do $28 a day flat, then we're not trying to prevent that. We're just saying in situations where the state is only paying $20 a day and they're leaving their inmates for what I consider too long of a time in the county jail, that we're motivating them to get them out.
Motion, Mr. Chairman, at the appropriate time. Titus Fisher do pass.
saying aye. All opposed? Senator Simmons,
Rise and report, Mr. Chair.
thank you.